What if I told you that a 5,000-year-old text predicted, with honestly chilling accuracy, that in our specific era, mental health would be the leading cause of death?
Right.
Like no plagues, no famines, just an absolute crushing collapse of our internal peace.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is that this isn't some modern sociological paper we are looking at. We're talking about ancient texts, like the Bhagavatam.
Okay.
Thousands of years ago, it was written that in our current era, which Vedic philosophy calls the Kali Yuga, psychological and emotional distress would become the ultimate existential threat. It's an era explicitly categorized by intense, inescapable internal struggle.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because today our mission is decoding a massive, incredibly insightful transcript from a Gen Z spirituality source.
It's a really deep text.
It is. And to be clear right off the bat, this deep dive is not just about ancient religion or some esoteric out-of-touch theory. The sources we're digging into serve as a highly practical masterclass on surviving the modern world's mental health crisis.
Using those exact 5,000-year-old Vedic frameworks, right?
Exactly. So whether you are prepping for a massive project, dealing with intense burnout, or just feeling the heavy, suffocating weight of adulting, this deep dive is for you.
It's essentially a survival guide for the modern mind.
Yeah. We're going to reveal the ancient mechanics of exactly why we feel this way, and more importantly, how to fix it. Let's start with the everyday anxiety so many of us feel, like the anxiety of working incredibly hard, doing everything right, and still completely failing to see results.
I mean, that is the absolute core of modern frustration. We are all socially conditioned to believe in a one-to-one ratio. Effort equals success.
Right, the whole hustle culture thing.
Exactly.
Right.
We think of life as a vending machine. You put the coin of hard work in, and you get the exact snack of success out. But the texts we're looking at, specifically the Bhagavad Gita, completely dismantle that.
They really do.
They argue that effort is actually only one of 5 factors that determine success.
Wait, to a secular listener or just someone brought up in modern hustle culture, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
We want total control over our lives. What are the other 4 factors?
Well, the 5 factors laid out are the doer-so, who is doing the action, and their qualifications. Then there's the place, like the environment, where the action is happening.
Okay.
Then the effort, how hard you actually try. Destiny, which encompasses your past karma. And finally, the ultimate wild card, which the texts call the grace of God, or providence.
Let me push back on that last one just a bit.
Yeah.
Because grace of God sounds to a lot of people like a polite way of saying random unfair chance.
Sure.
Does the source frame this as a literal deity pulling strings? Or is it more about acknowledging the massive variables completely outside human control?
It's really a blend of both, depending on how deeply you read into the theology. But pragmatically, it functions as the ultimate acknowledgement of the uncontrollable. It's the humbler realization that you are not the sole architect of the universe.
I want to make sure we really grasp this. So, if you think about it, our effort is like the engine of a car.
Right.
And destiny is the condition of the road you're driving on. Maybe it's paved, maybe it's full of potholes based on your past, but the grace of God is the weather.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
It can completely change the journey, regardless of the car or the road. The source literally mentions that this ultimate grace is like growing mangoes on a guava tree. It completely defies the normal rules of physics and expectation.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains why you can have the best engine, drive on a perfectly paved road, and still get stuck in a sudden blizzard.
Which happens to people all the time.
All the time. And understanding this isn't meant to make you apathetic. It's meant to remove the anxiety of absolute control. Now, to understand how we drive on that road, the texts categorize our actions into 3 distinct types.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, there's karma, which in this specific context means good deeds that lead to a comfortable, prosperous, material life.
Okay, so that's the standard cosmic point system. You do good things, you accrue good points, you get a good life.
Correct. Then there's vikarma, which are unethical, whimsical, or sinful actions. These inherently lead to suffering and obstacles down the line. They're the negative points on the ledger.
But the sources brought up a third category that really threw me. A karma. What exactly is the mechanism there?
So a karma is the secret ingredient. It translates to action performed with a divine presence or pure, selfless intention, completely detached from the desire for the result. The texts argue that a karma carries 0 material reaction.
Wait, 0 reaction. Like you aren't building up good points or bad points.
Exactly. You are essentially stepping outside the point system altogether. And beautifully, performing a karma is said to actually burn away the bad karma from your past.
How does that actually work, practically speaking? I mean, what is the mechanism that neutralizes past actions just because I changed my intention today?
Well, think of karma as a psychological ledger of debts and credits that binds your ego to the material world. When you act without wanting the result, when you practice pure karma, you aren't just pausing the ledger. You are literally dismantling the ego that holds the ledger in the first place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if there is no selfish ego demanding a reward, there's nowhere for the karmic reaction to attach itself.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If effort is only one of 5 factors, and the goal is to step outside the point system entirely, why are we so ill-equipped to handle failure today?
That's a huge question.
Like, why do we expect the vending machine to reward us perfectly every single time?
Because the vending machine is the only manual we've ever been handed. The source sharply contrasts our modern schooling system, which is almost entirely built around chasing higher marks to land bigger pay packages, with the ancient Indian Gurukul system.
The missing manual for human life.
Precisely. In the Gurukul system, children didn't just learn arithmetic and literature. They learned 64 practical skills alongside deep spiritual scriptures.
That's amazing.
It was explicitly an education in adulting. They were taught the mechanics of the mind. They were explicitly taught how to handle crushing disappointment, how to manage an inflated ego, and how to tolerate the inevitable duality of life.
The duality meaning the simple fact that today brings success and tomorrow is absolutely guaranteed to bring failure at some point.
Right.
We just aren't taught how to lose anymore.
Yeah.
But the source backs up this ancient approach with some pretty heavy modern science, don't they?
They really do. They cite findings from Harvard researchers who reviewed over 2,000 papers, as well as the work of scholar Keith Ward.
Okay.
The data consistently points to a staggering conclusion. Individuals, and especially children with a strong spiritual foundation, have significantly better mental health.
Wow.
They have lower rates of depression, far fewer criminal tendencies, and they actually live 6 to 13.2 years longer than their non-believing counterparts.
Wait, 13.2 years longer? What does the source say is the psychological mechanism behind that? Is it just the community aspect of religion, or is something else happening in the brain?
The source suggests it's a profound existential grounding. When you have a spiritual framework, your ego isn't taking the full devastating brunt of every single worldly failure.
Because you understand those 5 factors of success.
Exactly. A failure doesn't mean you are inherently worthless. That deeply reduces chronic cortisol, it buffers stress, and literally prevents the biological wear and tear that comes from chronic anxiety.
So what does this all mean for the collective burnout we are seeing in society right now? Like, is this just one giant collective punishment we're all forced to endure in this Kali Yuga era?
Well, the sources offer a brilliant analogy for this. They call it the weighing scale. Imagine an internal scale with 2 sides.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Side A represents a pure, ethical, spiritually aligned life that naturally leads to favorable inner circumstances. Side B represents unethical, whimsical, instant gratification choices that inevitably lead to internal distress.
And most of modern society is heavily leaning on side B, hence the collective chaos. But how does that help me, the individual, if the world around me is burning?
So the source argues that even if the whole world is suffering collectively, even if there is macroeconomic chaos all around you, the individual whose internal side A is heavier remains blissfully unaffected.
Really?
Yeah, your individual piece is entirely insulated from the collective chaos if your internal scale is balanced correctly.
So the weighing scale is essentially like wearing active noise-canceling headphones on a chaotic, turbulent airplane.
Yes.
The heavy side A, that spiritual alignment, doesn't stop the plane's engine from roaring, and it doesn't stop the turbulence, but it completely changes the acoustic environment inside your own head.
That is a perfect way to look at it. You are on the same flight as everyone else, but experiencing a completely different reality.
Which means if our peace depends entirely on our internal choices, then the real war we're fighting isn't on the outside at all.
Exactly. It's the inner Mahabharata.
The great ancient war fought right inside our own heads. The texts actually outline 6 specific inner enemies we are battling on this internal battlefield.
Right. They are selfishness, which the texts call the all-devouring enemy. Anger, greed, pride, illusion, and envy.
Okay, that's a heavy list.
And what is absolutely crucial here is the hierarchy. The source material singles out envy as the ultimate boss-level threat, the most dangerous of the 6.
Why envy? Like, why is that worse than anger or greed?
Because envy is the sum total of the other five.
No.
Yeah, if you are truly envious of someone, you are inherently selfish. You are angry that someone else has what you want. You are greedy to take it from them. You are prideful, believing you deserve it more than they do. And you are living in an illusion that acquiring their possession will make you happy.
That makes so much sense.
Plus, envy makes you proactive in trying to tear someone else down, whereas the others can sometimes just be internal brooding.
That is a chilling breakdown. But it makes me wonder, and I have to ask this on behalf of anyone who feels these emotions deeply, is the goal of this entire spiritual framework just to relentlessly suppress these feelings until we are emotionless robots?
Definitely not.
Can we ever actually use these negative emotions?
This raises such an important question, and the answer in the source is a resounding no to suppression. The texts recognize that human emotions are incredibly powerful fuels.
Okay.
If you suppress a roaring fire, it just builds pressure and explodes. The trick is redirection. You can actually use these intense, seemingly negative emotions to fuel your spiritual growth if you redirect them toward a higher divine purpose.
And the source gave an absolutely wild story to illustrate this. The story of Bilva Mangala Sakur. What actually happened there?
It's one of the most dramatic examples of redirecting obsession in the Vedic texts. So Bilva Mangala Thakur was a man completely blindingly consumed by lust for a local prostitute.
Just obsessed.
His obsession was so deep, so pathological, that on the night his own father died, he rushed through the sacred funeral rites just to get back to her.
Wait, didn't the source mention a river crossing that sounds completely unhinged?
Yes, there was a terrible storm, and the river to her village was flooding. He was so desperate he jumped into the raging water. He found what he thought was a log to hold on to still afloat.
Okay.
But it wasn't a log, it was a floating, bloated corpse. And he used it to cross the river anyway.
That is horrifying.
It gets worse. When he arrived at her house in the pouring rain, the doors were locked. He looked up and saw what he thought was a rope hanging from her balcony. He grabbed it, climbed up, and jumped inside.
I can't even imagine.
She was shocked to see him and asked how he possibly got up there. He pointed to the rope. She looked over the balcony, and it wasn't a rope. It was a massive, highly venomous python.
His lust was so blinding he couldn't even process mortal danger.
Exactly. And the woman, realizing the sheer magnitude of his sickening obsession, rebuked him. She told him, if you had even a fraction of this intense, blinding attachment for the divine, for God, you would have achieved perfection by now.
Ouch. But that was the turning point, right?
It completely snapped him out of his illusion. But here's the mechanism of redirection. He didn't suppress that intense emotional capacity. He didn't try to become a stoic robot.
Use it.
Right. The exact same blinding intensity he had for material lust, he pivoted entirely towards spiritual devotion. He actually became so desperate to remove any future material temptations that he blinded himself with hairpins, realizing his physical eyes were the source of his distraction.
Wow.
He went on to become a legendary, highly elevated saint.
It's extreme, obviously, but the psychology is fascinating. The fuel didn't change, just the destination.
Yeah.
Okay, I buy that obsession or lust can be redirected because they are intensely passionate, fiery emotions.
Sure.
But what about cold, calculating emotions? Like, what about something purely selfish like greed? Can you actually spiritualize wanting money or jewels?
The sources address that perfectly with the story of the Govardhan dacoit. This was a thief, a hardened bandit living in the forest.
Okay.
He overheard a storyteller describing the divine figures of Krishna and Balaram, specifically mentioning that they wore priceless, glittering jewels while herding cows.
So the thief's ears perk up, like priceless jewels wandering the forest without security, target acquired.
Exactly. His greed was instantly activated. But here is where the mechanism of redirection takes over. Because he wanted those jewels so badly, he started searching the forest obsessively for Krishna.
Just looking everywhere.
24 hours a day, his mind was entirely focused on the divine. Like, where is he? I need to find him.
Even though his motive was literally to mug God.
Yes. But because his mind was so entirely absorbed in the divine, the source of his concentration purified his consciousness.
Oh, that makes sense.
That pure, concentrated greed eventually transformed into a transcendental longing. By the time the divine actually appeared before him in the forest, offering him all the jewels he could carry, the dacoit refused them.
His internal weighing scale had shifted completely.
Right. He realized his true desire wasn't the jewels anymore, it was the connection. The psychological shift happened because the intense focus on the divine burned away the material greed.
leaving only the desire to see that divine presence every single day.
Exactly. It's like modern hustle culture. You start out obsessively chasing $1 million exit purely out of greed, but somewhere along the way, if you apply the right intention, you realize you don't actually care about the money anymore. You just fell in love with the art of building something.
That brings up a concept the Source leans into heavily. Have. Have means intention, emotion, or love. And the core message is that the physical action or the physical offering doesn't matter nearly as much as the pav behind it.
Intention is the ultimate currency. The text contrasts two famous offerings to illustrate this perfectly.
Let's hear them.
On one hand, you have the powerful king Duryodhana, who offered the divine a massive, opulent 56-item feast, but it was entirely rejected.
Because the Bhav was wrong.
Yes, it was offered with pride, ego, and a desire to manipulate, completely devoid of any real love.
And then on the exact opposite end of the spectrum.
You have the wife of Vidura. She was so overwhelmed with pure love and devotion when the divine visited her humble home that she completely lost her situational awareness.
How so?
Well, she was peeling bananas to offer, but in her state of sheer ecstatic devotion, she was throwing away the actual fruit and feeding the divine the banana peels.
And he ate them. Happily.
Because he wasn't eating the physical peel, he was accepting the bhav, the pure intention.
That is such a profound shift in perspective. Like, we spend our whole lives stressing over whether our banana is perfectly peeled, worrying about the absolute perfection of our work, our bodies, our deliverables, our emails.
All the external stuff.
Exactly. But the universe, or the divine, only cares about the warmth of the hands offering it. The physical output is irrelevant if the pav is empty.
If the bhav isn't there, the action is entirely hollow. It carries no spiritual weight.
I hear all this, and it really is beautiful. But let me push back slightly on behalf of everyone listening right now who has an inbox full of unread emails, a demanding boss, and a mortgage to pay.
Fair enough.
Do we have to quit our jobs and move to a cave to achieve this level of peace and redirection? Because monitoring your bhav all day sounds like a full-time gig.
It's a very valid concern, and the sources tackle it head-on. The answer is absolutely not. You do not need a cave. In fact, they give the example of George Harrison from the Beatles to prove this.
Wait, George Harrison?
Yes. When George Harrison discovered these teachings, he was at the absolute height of his global fame.
Right.
He was so moved by the philosophy that he actually went to his spiritual teacher, Prabhupada, and said he wanted to renounce his wealth, his fame, and become a monk. He wanted to quit the world, and his teacher told him no.
He rejected his resignation from the material world.
Exactly. He told Harrison to stay exactly where he was, to remain in the world, and to use his massive, unprecedented platform to connect people to a higher purpose.
That's powerful.
True spirituality, according to these texts, is about connection, not rejection. It's about using what you have, your talents, your job, your platform, your money, but infusing it with the right bhav.
So how do you maintain that in the chaos of daily life? If you're staying in the boardroom and not retreating to the cave, how do you keep your mind from getting dragged into the mud?
By establishing a daily internal practice. The sources use a great, very practical phrase, sweating in peace so you bleed less in war.
Oh, I love that.
The idea is that you must have a daily spiritual workout. In the Kali Yuga era, the sources highly recommend the chanting of mantras as the most effective method for this.
Just daily chanting.
Yeah, they argue that dedicating time, say 2 hours a day to this internal gym, makes the remaining 22 hours of your day infinitely more efficient. It kills the deep, lingering mental tiredness that so many people suffer from.
It's basically preventive maintenance for the mind. But the sources go deeper into why this inner work matters so much, beyond just having a productive day at the office. And it revolves around a concept called the Sukshma Sharir.
The astral body. According to Vedic philosophy, we don't just have a physical body and a soul. Sandwiched right between them is the Sukshma Sharir, the astral body, which is entirely composed of 3 things: your mind, your intelligence, and your ego.
Okay, mind, intelligence, ego. Why is this astral body so critical?
Because when the physical body dies, the soul doesn't just float away randomly. The text states that the astral body acts as a vehicle.
Like a car.
Or think of it like a hard drive transferring your operating system to a new computer. It carries the soul to its next destination, its next reality. And the quality of that next destination is directly determined by the condition and purity of that astral hard drive.
So whatever you are seeding your mind, whatever you are letting shape your ego today, is quite literally building the vehicle for your future existence. The source shared a wild story about how sensitive this astral state is, right? the Garba story.
Yes, to show the sheer power of the mind's condition. It's the story of the great demon king Hiranyakashipu. He is considered the most ruthless, materialistic entity in the universe.
The ultimate bad guy.
Right, but right before he conceived his child, his meditation was interrupted by the sage Narada Muni, who shouted the divine name Narayana in his ear.
So the Demon King goes home and he's furious, but that divine name is just echoing in his head.
Exactly. His mind, his astral state, was vibrating with that divine frequency at the exact moment of conception, almost against his will.
Wow.
And because of that specific mental state, despite being a literal demon, he attracted an incredibly pure, elevated soul into his family. His son, Prahlada, who became one of the greatest saints in their history. The condition of the mind dictates what you attract and exactly where you go.
Okay, let's bring all this together. Navigating this chaotic modern era, this Kali Yuga, isn't about desperately trying to control the external results.
No, it's not.
We can't fix the broken GPS by yelling at the screen. It's about recognizing that effort is only one part of the equation. It's about cultivating a pure intention, that behav, so you aren't just going through the motions mechanically.
Right.
And crucially, it's about doing your daily internal workout, sweating in peace, so your mind doesn't drag you down into the mud when the real battles happen.
It is entirely about upgrading your internal vehicle, rather than constantly complaining about the bumps in the road.
Which brings me to a final thought for you to mull over today, building right off that idea of the Sukshma Sharir, the astral vehicle.
That is important.
The sources tell us that our astral body, our mind, our intelligence, our ego, is the actual suitcase that carries our soul to its next reality. So if you had to pack your astral suitcase tonight, based purely on the media you consumed, the thoughts you harbored, and the intentions behind your actions today, where exactly is that suitcase taking you tomorrow?
A very powerful question to reflect on.
Keep questioning, keep learning, and as always, thank you for unpacking this with us.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest videos. Thank you for watching and supporting our channel.